Good day or good evening, as it may be to some. My name is Robert Savino, and I'm a trustee at the Walt Whitman Birthplace. I greet you on the second day on behalf of Director Cynthia Shaw and the Walt Whitman Association, and welcome you to the second series of Season 2's Triangulation Journey, Poets Building Bridges. Poets Building Bridges is produced by Poetrybay Production in partnership with the Walt Whitman Birthplace and led by George Wallace, who's been our writer in residence for nearly 12 years. I thank you, George, for the continuance of this program and for all your contributions to the birthplace and to poetry. I thank all the performers and followers for joining us on this journey, and to Heather, our technical director at the birthplace. And now, a round of applause for George Wallace.
Well, thank you for that. Thank you, Robert. Robert is he is very modest about himself, but he was a former Suffolk County Poet Laureate and a very important asset for poets in the Walt Whitman Birthplace's hierarchy as a trustee who's also a poet. The Walt Whitman Birthplace is a fabulous location. If you've never had a chance to visit it, it's really worth seeing. Walt Whitman's dad built this house as a model house for developments back in the early 19th century, and he was a builder locally in Huntington, Long Island. Walt was born there. After a couple of years, they moved to Brooklyn, but kept coming back because there's an extensive family of Whitmans and Van Velsers, maternal family in this area. So as the custodians and the people taking care to make sure that the heritage of that house, the legacy of Walt Whitman in his own writing are preserved and advanced into the future. The fact that the Walt Whitman Birthplace is putting on various events for poets regionally, locally, nationally, and in this case, internationally, so we can group together like this, is a testament to how strong the birthplace is and all the good work that they do in this area as well. So I'd like to personally thank the Walt Whitman Birthplace and the administration there for their willingness to take on this, the tasks of promoting poetry in general and community of poetry. So I want to thank the Birthplace for that. Yes, this is the second of a year's worth of Poets Building Bridges that we're doing. Started in November. We're going to run through next June. And it's the second year that we're doing this after an inaugural run in March. And it was a great show then, 4 weeks worth. And now we're doing it once a month, second Saturdays. Last month was excellent. And we're going to have a fabulous interaction today. I know all of the leaders of the various contingencies that are here with us today, and have met with them at various points. Mostly, in the internet, but of course in person with Anton Yakovlev down at the Bowery Poetry Club and out in Rutherford, New Jersey. Kevin, I had a couple opportunities to visit with him in San Luis Obispo in coastal California, fabulous, great, wonderful place, part of California that, a lot of people on the East Coast don't think about. They think of LA and San Francisco, and that's it. So, but I mean, it's super location. And of course, we have with us today from India, Pankhuri Sinha, who I've had a number of interactions with, and I love her work. And the fact that she's able to pull together some people for us today is really special. So it's early in the morning in California. It's late in the evening in India. It's 12 o'clock noon in New York, New Jersey area. And we've decided, because of the sequence of who came in when, and we know we've got a complete group from New Jersey, that we're going to start with Anton Yakovlev. And Anton is, well, I'm not going to go through the credentials because you've all seen the credentials, except to say that one of the great things that he's done, which he may not even have mentioned in his bio, is his translation and promotion of the work of Sergei Yesenin, which he translated Sergei's work into English with a very, very important book. So, but he has a number of credits to his name, and he's part of a Red Wheelbarrow group, which meets in William Carlos Williams Center, or had done, in Rutherford, New Jersey. I'll tell you more about that in this group. Please welcome Anton Yakovlev.
Hello.
Thank you, George. Pleasure for all of us to be here. I'm here to introduce the Rutherford Red Wheelbarrow. And we are just like the Whitman Birthplace is dedicated to the legacy of Walt Whitman, in a very similar way, we're dedicated to the legacy of William Carlos Williams. Rutherford is the place, the town that he lived. And the Williams Center, where we had readings for many, many years, is literally like a block away from his house, the house where he lived. Currently, the readings take place at Felician University, which is basically a few blocks down from there. Today, I'm one of the so-called gang of six, which is Moira O'Brien, who is also here, Claudia Serea, Arthur Russell, Frank Rubino, and Don Zirilli. And Arthur, Frank, and Don will read some of their own work. With the entire gang of six, we publish a annual magazine, which if you look at Don and Hank's background, you'll see the cover of the Red Wheelbarrow 15, the 15th annual issue, for which Maura, Claudia, all of us worked on putting together the magazine. And in particular, Don, Arthur, Frank, and I were the ones that we picked the poems that went into the journal. So at this time, I'd like to pass along to Don Zirilli, who has prepared a brief introduction, just a minute or so, a bit more about the history of the Rutherford Red Wheelbarrow, because he has been with the wheelbarrow for the longest. And I think in January, it celebrates its 17th birthday of the organization. So Don, would you like to say a few more things before, and then read some poems?
Yes, I've been here the longest of the four of us, not of everyone. As far as the history goes, in September of 2005, Della Rowland organized the first William Carlos Williams Symposium at the Williams Center in Rutherford. John J. Trouse, who some of you know, was so inspired by this event that he and Jane Fisher, who was the director of the Rutherford Public Library, started a monthly reading series in January of 2006. Soon after, Jim Klein added a weekly workshop to the mix. And together they formed the William Carlos Williams Poetry Cooperative. In 2008, they started an annual anthology called the Rutherford Red Wheelbarrow, edited at the time by Jim Klein. Today, we just call ourselves the Red Wheelbarrow Poets. Even though the name has changed and the leadership, the trifecta of readings, workshops, and journals has continued nonstop to this day. I just wanted to mention that the workshop, when we went to Zoom for obvious reasons, Jim Klein gave up the reins and it was taken over by my co-features, Arthur and Frank. Also, if you read at our open mic or if you attend the workshop, you are eligible to submit to our anthology. So you can contact us, just give us an email address, or you can find us on Facebook, Friends of the Red Wheelbarrow. Okay, so I'm just going to jump into my reading. Since we're doing geographical diversity here, I thought I would represent New Jersey. New Jersey has its own Sussex County, and that's where I live. And so my poetry will reflect that little known, little celebrated part of New Jersey. So my first poem is called The Sussex County Poetry and Nature Society. You can find them on the side of the road. Beatrice bent over, Lana pulling up the sleeves of a purple sweater. Look for wishful white puffs until the coolness covers them in hats and scarves of grizzled rust. Greta glows with a word for fog that crowds around her feeling of it on a certain heavy morning. Rhoda tends toward earthy tones to underscore her florid flashes. Their rhythms are susceptible to weather, stutter at cloud-buttressed cyan, rock where they should run. Chloris is helpless before a staggered rise of heather, but the pollen of a seething new expression collects in golden strands of verse. Thank you. And now to zoom into the town level, here is a meeting of the Green Township Historical Society. 50 years have made their visit here, fogging over his eyes. He asks if I'm the son of the station agent, but I haven't made that trip. Pulled from a worn folder, the world in his hand shakes with his age, like a flat black and white earthquake. But the creamery doesn't froth. The train isn't late. The track men have kept everything straight from Dover to Sexton. Drunkards, muscles sore from indiscretion, drove in spikes with fierce precision, while engineers held the grade to 1%. It holds, this world, ready to be duplicated, but not entered. You need the past for stories, he tells me. I have neither. I'm the sullen earth, waiting for horses and the blades they pull. Thank you. This is another rural New Jersey experience. It's called The Auction. Next on the block, a lamp, a lovely floor lamp here, authentic. Is that authentic? Authentic glass, stained glass. That's stained glass. Those aren't tears, folks. That's leaded crystal. Those streaks are on purpose. It's art, it's a lamp, it's still lights. Do I hear 40? 30, do I hear 30? That's got to be 6 feet tall, cast iron base or wrought iron, we're not sure. It's heavy though, isn't it heavy? I helped carry it in. Joe damn near got a hernia, didn't you, Joe? Or was you just looking for an excuse to quit early? 25, I can't sell it for less than that. 25, that's too low. What a deal at 25. Joe loved this piece. Joe'll pay 25 for this, won't you, Joe? I'll start the bidding at 25, 25. Don't let this go to Joe. It won't go in his place. You ever been to his apartment? Like a cellar with windows. The man needs a wife. You hear me, Joe? Let go and get on with things. A woman knows what lamp to get. How about it, women? This lamp is just that touch you've been looking for. 25. Just the touch you need. You know what I mean. Going once, going twice. Don't leave it to Joe. He'll break it. He breaks things. He doesn't mean to, but he has hands like hamburgers. Going 3 times. He's going to try to plug this in some rainy evening. You know his roof leaks. He's going to kill himself on this lamp. He's going to knock it over and break it. He can't help himself. It's his nature. Like this lamp to light up. And what a beautiful accent it will be. Can you turn that lamp on, Joe? No, you better not. Trust me on this one. Or better yet, visualize it. Imagine the light. Going, 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 going. Sold to Joe. Thank you. Another rural experience. This is called a sign. They let their boy increase the font size. Mom spills her drink on the counter, bangs her knuckle when she wipes it up. No more time for fussing. The printer whines and scrapes. Lost dog, do not chase. The only words on this stretch of road, half-heartedly hugging a telephone pole, not telling you where you are or what is near, torn from what it signifies, taped in place. Lost dog, do not chase. A German shepherd, mostly. Raccoon eyes bedeviled by flash, a nauseating tilt taken from above, a record of love and transient mistakes. Lost dog, do not chase. They've seen him dive from piers, clear a chain link fence, ignore barbed wire. The way a river runs, he covers ground, wailing unknowable joy, all the while forgetting who he is and what he escapes. Lost dog, do not chase. Thank you. I'm going to end with a poem that's geography, but also a love poem. Another day with you. A lunch you made, a long commute, colossal interstate, herons flying overhead, contemplating another day with you, walking dogs quickly on a neighbor's lawn, racing against the night into another day with you. A cat scratching the bedroom door, yawns and complaints, shotgun sneezes, allergy season for another day. You restlessly disappear to take pictures of insects and light, returning to another day with your rare ideals. You're puzzled over dreams, the ghost you smell, haunting another day with you, the garden gutted, compost in the recycle bin, dead bees arranged on a mirror, reflecting another day of singing to animals, coaxing their replies, coaxing another sun, another sky, another creek full of reeds, another day with you, another hour, another look, another chance to waste, your hand to hold, another day to lean up against me, a clock 20 minutes fast, a fish swimming above the TV, junk we don't throw away, the noble postures of pets, another home-cooked masterpiece, another you for a bright, beautiful day, falling like another card into my lap, the fortune that it tells, the fortune that it is. Thank you. That's my piece.
So now please welcome Frank Rubino, who will be our second feature from the Red Wheelbarrow Poets.
Oh, great. Hello, everybody. It's so great to see some friends from even far-flung places and everything. It's you never know who's going to show up at these things. Okay, so I will read about 10 minutes worth of poetry here. I've got a poem that I'll start out with, which isn't published anywhere. It's called Penguin. It's kind of a seasonal poem. In December, we'd plug in an animated holiday penguin, about 3 feet tall, whose mechanical wings flapped. It was made in China from wads of plastic stuck into its robot frame. And when its lights came on, they heated up the plastic and you could smell it. Penguin's last year, its wing mechanism slipped its joint, flapping erratic and vulnerable looking. And perhaps for this reason, I kissed it on its beak. It returned no friendliness except passivity. No, please buy me a cup of coffee. No, please be my mother. Nor any other quality that might have been a reason to give it a kiss. But I see your qualities, people who designed and mechanized the penguin. I see your, I want to feel unconfused like a cartoon. People in the factory with painted over windows. I am suffering panic attacks and severe anxiety. I need antipsychotics to help with my paranoia. People in the manufacturer's village. I can't get over my grief losing my father. No one protected me when I was little, so I have 47 guns and counting. I need my wing fixed. People in China who designed and mechanized the penguin. I want to have a baby. I want to give love. Okay, that's that one. And now I'll continue with a few things from Red Wheelbarrow 14, which we talked about earlier, which is this one, which you can get when we'll let you know about how to get those and everything. And this one is called Footlocker. It also has a seasonal sort of aspect to it. Footlocker. The other guys knew they could dump trouble on him. Spray shaving cream in his crotch while he slept. Bait him. Work up his emotions, and he would bark and cry and unleash his smart mouth the way he did against Mom. Fathers of that era, even gentle ones like ours, answered smart mouth with the belt. My brother, if you just come and sit in Carnegie Hall at Christmas time and hear the choirs sing Glory to War as it is couched in the old hymns, you'll hear a call to world domination by force of arms upon the occasion of the Nativity, and you'll know what swung Dad's belt. If we would ever leave our bar stools, my brother, and go and sit in Carnegie Hall at Christmas time. I was outside on the lawn, untangling our Christmas lights, and I heard the slap of the belt behind the garage door, my brother's smart mouth, and my father's reproaches. I think it was theatrics, partly, maybe. My brother's footlocker under his bunk in Camp Tamarack hid a note to his girlfriend the guys had found, and when they read it aloud and guffawed, it said, "Don't give up. You are my everything and my sunshine." And it contained no smart mouth. Was that one. Continuing along here with some more poems from Red Wheelbarrow 14. I've got The Hog of Circumstance, which I'm reading for Anton here. The Hog of Circumstance. Brother, we have come down against the pigs. We have killed the hog of circumstance. We gathered round the Christmas pit to look. Where did the brains and the other guts go? I imagine to some dogs, and I do not begrudge them. The hog of circumstance had a teenager's beard and crooked teeth. The hog of combat is always in a struggle when a man shoots a hog with a bow or a gun. We know a young son in the system, and he makes Seattle Seahawks earrings. He is the hog of the forsaken. Brother, I said, you have come down against the hog of forgiveness. Late in my house, 3/4 through a bottle of bourbon, we slept with our full hog bellies in chairs amongst the books, like when we'd been young and sharing the same bedroom, shelved top to bottom in our small place in Nutley. One Day in the Life of Ivan Denisovich is a book about a prisoner in the Russian Gulag. The hog of the Gulag is the original hog of Nutley. We talk about our girlfriends and our bad dreams. The hog of calamity functions despite constant terror of predation. The hog of dilemma stood on the railroad tracks, and all the trains rushed backward. The hog of mercy had his same dreams and wrote them down, and he is the hog of the meeting place. Two more. One more from Red Wheelbarrow 14. It's called Miss Jelensky. I'll read this one for Arthur. Miss Jelensky. When in my prehistoric times diorama, my clay dinosaurs' perfect necks wilted, and I cried. Miss Jelensky let me play under her desk. She let me have a sheltered feeling like in a cave, and gave me her nearness while she sat in her chair doing her work. Miss Jelensky's feet in her hose were silly putty colored, and she rested them on top of her shoes, stretching the tendons of her instep, dreaming, I think now, of Tom Jones, over whom her cheeks had reddened at circle time when one of the kids bragged her mother had seen him in Atlantic City. Okay. Now I'm going to finish with one from Red Wheelbarrow 15, which is the design on the and my background here. And this one is called Lady Gaga is unrecognizable from what she looks like. Roger sent a video. A kid lashes a bag of rice to himself in China and flattens his body against a cliff. He's going to climb with the equivalent of another person on his back. Remember, we spoke to Roger when we were having problems. Human plus time equals crazy shit. The kid climbs step by step on a path that isn't there. And Roger prescribed we do the same, rubbing moisturizer on his elbows while his dog, Star, abided on the sofa. She was a short-haired, muscle-bound French bulldog who cleverly relaxed as we exercised our vexation. I used to think Star was a cute name, but now I see its absolutism, its sternness, steadfastness. Determined to write down my dreams, I had a string of doozies. Tupperware systems, complex like stars, get chaotic. We live in a laboratory with an observatory stuck on top. The Indian chief showed me his breasts and thenceforth resolved to kill me. I was talking with you in the kitchen and you left the room. Your being away for any length of time, for any reason, pulls the corner of an emotional handkerchief tied to a chain of handkerchiefs, tied to a star. Remember, we talked to that gentle man, Roger, when we were having problems, and he sent a video. Roger saw combat in Vietnam and warned us of its chaotic terror. In China, a little boy on top of a cliff cooks rice for a baby. Are you the Indian chief I dreamed, who instead of shooting arrows rained stars on me? I can't believe I'm a baby. I was talking with you in the kitchen, climbing step by step on a path to the stars. Thanks. Thank you very much. It's great. It's a great crowd. Wonderful event. Can't wait to hear the rest of the readings.
And just a quick note to say, behind Anton, above his left shoulder, is a portrait of Sergei Yesenin. So check out Rutherford. Check the Rutherford Poets and the Red Wheelbarrow Poets. They do a lot of great work over there. As within spitting distance in New York City as well. It's great. Actually, it's a great view of the skyline of New York City from that ridge. So thank you all. We're going to turn now to our friends from India, and they are led by Pankhuri Sinha, who I'm sure you've seen her bio, but I just do want to point out from, aside from all the award-winning things that she's done in India and as well in Italy and Bangladesh and other locations around the world, including a Chekhov Award from Yalta. The thing that just jumped out at me is the fact that she has connections both to the east and west coast of North America as well, having gone to school at SUNY Buffalo, which is close by us here in New York City, and out west and actually in the mountain country, but is up in Canada, Calgary. But that's sort of a West Coast phenomenon. So if anybody, among us here today, she's one of these people that has the most on the ground, boots on the ground experience of all these locations. So, but she's going to bring us some of our friends and colleagues in India today. Please welcome Pankhuri Sinha. Where is she? There it is. If you could unmute yourself, Pankhuri.
Thank you. Thank you for that help with unmuting. And I am so happy to be here. Thank you so much, George, for your kind invitation, and absolutely delighted to meet all of these great poets. And very happy to be here with my two poet friends, Prasanna and Ratan Ghosh. And they both are, very promising poets, and Ratanji is also a teacher. So I think they will talk a little bit about their own work themselves. I think I will just proceed with my poems. I think that is okay, right? I mean, we organize a little bit of, international events, and someday we'll surprise you with some invitees. And I hope that you all will be, interested in joining. So I want to say that, like George said, I used to live in States, and I still am in love with that country. So a lot of my poems are about immigration and migration and diaspora and the duality of our existence and sort of torn identities and so on and so forth. So I think I'm going to start with a poem that is titled Flying Home with Mother. Flying home with mother, I saw the photo caption said and remembered. I just wrote it and wondered if it needed editing, some adding, some betterment of words to convey the real thing, perhaps another word for home. Can there ever be, for I wasn't going home, how could I? Home was far away, and one's native place doesn't automatically become home. Suddenly, after that long migration abroad and a near forced return, let's leave the long story and all theory and talk about home. Home, the sweet, home, the eternal, home, the haven, with books and spices neatly stacked to be easily found, for a home was to be ready for a walk-in any time. You see, having lived on a road called Sweet Home for a long, long time, it's quite unimaginable that one won't be able to return home. Yeah, that's right, just home, my home, not an immigrant home, not home abroad, but home where I belonged, experimented with food and cooking, drink and dancing, sipping strangeness, tasting newness, cherishing the old, reinventing the ancient, where one could walk for miles in the woods, but the library was just walking distance, and contained all one could look for. Of course, bookshops have their own charm, uncontested in the public sphere with endless choices, but excellent spots both for finding and losing oneself in books or in the woods. That's what felt like home, our built-up abode in a foreign country. One can never forget the aroma or the feeling, the thrill of perfect belonging as arrivals. Alien people with strange customs that even differed, belongingness was always contested and didn't have to be agreed upon, but perhaps guarded. How do I get back to that home? How can one's home suddenly get out of reach? So the second one, that was the first one. The second one is from my first book of poems, thank you, called Prison Turkeys. And this is my first book of poems in English. I used to publish in Hindi earlier, although even as an undergrad, I used to write in English, but at that point, of time in India, the publishing opportunities in English were very limited, and now they are just immense. So it's easier, although this book is with a publishing company in States. At that point in time, I was living in Canada. So I just want to read the first poem. It happened just very, very sort of weirdly and unexpectedly that, you know, I was going to get my green card and ended up somewhere where I just hadn't thought I would be. So this poem was born out of that experience. So it's called Of Prison Darkness. Of a light bulb, of a night bulb, lit up forever, never going off, with no switch in the room, but probably a mild dimming of the lights at night, and you could ask the guards to lower the AC. You could see them from the vent in the door, from the big square vent. She often did, woke up, wore her spectacles and saw them. They wore blue uniforms, navy blue. They asked you to not carry your food in your cells. She did. They all did many times. Once they called again and again for stolen milk. For anyone who had stolen milk, but she hid them behind the TV was locked for an evening. With no evening shower, she, the most disciplined of all prisoners, ate very quietly, asked for extra, whenever anyone got a bail, and left, while they all talked with food over food. Some talked in their sleep, some cried at night. They came in the mornings, before dawn, before the sunrise, way before sunrise, and took them people who were going back to their country, their own country. Or countries, different people going to different countries, being sent rather. Some said there were many countries within their country and they had none. But they had lost the case and were being sent back. Also people who had overstayed, knowing the penalty. Some were caught at the border, crossing the border with expired papers. It all makes you wonder if there was a larger nexus, a bigger game. No one told you anything. No one told you anything. Those contesting their status spoke endlessly of the court without speaking of the truth or even of what was happening. There was mystery, there were secrets, there were committed friends, there were promises, there was eternal night. The light never went off. The doors opened and locked at a time. They were computerized and could be opened and locked at any time. So thank you, thank you. I think I will read one more. This is about India. It's called Celebration. I could read a few more nostalgic ones, and I have many, but I think I'll read one about India. And just a second. Yeah, so it's called Celebration. India, a land of festivals, colors and culture, fragrance and beauty, ethnic and diverse, pluralist and tolerant, where every harvest has a festival, every festival a song. All lips know how to sing. Why then there remains a deafening silence in the lives of half of its people. Divisions divide, demarcate, separate the rich from the poor, religions from each other. How does a nation with a broken soul, ruptured heart, pull all that's apart and join together in a thing called celebration? Do I have time for one more? I could do a very short one on electoral politics.
Go for it, do it quick.
Okay, great, thank you. So this is called In a War Between Two People. Not a story of getting caught accidentally in a war between two people, but of being trapped in it, methodically, schematically, systematically, connivingly, out of a conspiracy a cunning conspiracy, waking up in it every morning, in a war within two factions, everywhere at work. Like war was chasing you, a strange war, saying it rules civilian spheres. Civilian workspaces, the leftover of colonial days, a story of trapping someone very deliberately, leaving them trapped to seek the art of leaving a trap. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you so much.
Now it's to you to introduce the next.
So I think I am going to call Prasanna to present his poems. He's a talented poet from the southern part of the country with a different mother tongue, but we all are comfortable with English. So I think he's going to read his poems in English as well and not the translated ones. Welcome, Prasanna.
Thank you, ma'am. Thank you, George. Thanks for having me here. Now I see Poets Without Bridges, connecting poet, building bridges. Pankhuri Sinha, ma'am. What a wonderful way of presentation. Thank you for having me. And this poem is, I love gazing stars. I love looking at the sky. I'm intrigued by the universe. So this poem is all about that. A speck of celestial bliss. The clash of titans in the sea of galaxies, the reign of authority and the dome of universe, dance of gods and demons, the power mongers and rangers of black holes. Ever since my birth, I gazed at the skies of blue horizons. Messed I myself with currents of comets crossing my pathways. The resonance of cosmic roar is what fascinated me to go after. Crawled and crept to grow young, to plug the stars of microcosm and macrocosm. Yes, mature zygote that floats in the amniotic fluid of genetic strands of superior beings. Symbiotic synergy was born to be called as Brahmand. Brahmand, now I stretched my vision as I became an adult to fathom further, to measure the infinitesimal. A light year, while being stuck in the mundane realms, realize I'm a speck in the celestial wonder. That's the end of my cosmic poem. And another one that I'm gonna read is something, a smack of gust. It begins with a funny note, but then ends with a supplication. So it's my smack of gust, I think, which is, I'm reading out from a Flowers of from the Valley, which I released, 2 days back. It's a rainy day, everyone became Faraday, inventing the bulbs to drive off the darkness. Bulbs of helium sipa are what they found, lashed with beads. The rain made a dance, pitter patter, making later with morning clatter. The dusk dazzled with the rattle of drops, rumbled the hearts with eerie pops. The smack of gust cast spells on the masses, gathered their courage to face the outage by lightning candles. Begin they basking in the drenching by making the rainy day resounding, frolicking, crossing the bridges of faith with supplication to wipe off tears, fractures of skin and mind filled with prayers, invocation to dare to do away puzzles of miseries and sorrows. Seem it to be reaching the height of Almighty, a ray of hope is alighting in the hearts of distressed, foreseeing the reply to the ardent request. So that is something, a smack of gust turned to be a prayer. That's the end of my second poem. I think I could have another one if I am allowed. How could I? This is a funny one. How could I? I forayed into the room full of books with a now as my eyes fell on the racks. I looked at the towering shelves, a labyrinth of leaves, a maze of mysteries, classics, and puzzles, encrypted historical hues, decrypted mythological facts, hidden treasure of romantic epics, psychological thrillers, and suspense-filled rip-tickling comedies. I wonder myself at the intellect of authors, novelists, and creators. Well, that's what remained till the date, as I am ignorant to comprehend the fact. The contents that are stored within act never to make me literate. How could I digest the knowledge that's sealed in the stands? Thank you. That's thank you, ma'am. Thank you, Pankhuri, ma'am, for introducing me with Poets Building Bridges, and thanks to George Wallace, Anton, Ratan, Ghosh, and everyone out here. Thank you. And please do come on. We are having a regular Sunday open mics on Sundays, Indian Standard Time, 7 p.m. I link, pasted in the chat box. Thank you.
Great. And now I think it is Ratan Ghosh's turn. So welcome, sir.
Hello. Am I audible?
Yes, you're good.
Hello.
Hello, good.
Good evening to everyone. Thank you, George Wallace, and for calling me here. Hello, am I audible? Because my throat has certain problems.
Yes, yes.
Am I audible?
Yes,
yeah.
You are.
Actually, I've been suffering from throat problem. That's why the voice is not clear, I think. Is it clear? Okay. Thank you. I would like to thank Pankhuri for introducing me in this platform. And thank you, George Wallace. And thank you, everyone who are present here in this prestigious platform. And I think it's mine, actually, and it's for me an opportunity. Of course, it's an opportunity to read my poem in this platform. So I'm going to read a poem first from my upcoming book entitled Genocide. Then I'll read a poem recently published in an international journal, and another poem from this book published in the last year. So I'm going to read a poem from my upcoming book entitled Spring Was Lost. This poem is based on refugee problems. Actually, we observed, of course, our forefathers observed and saw it in 1946. On the basis of that history, you can say, history of partition, the poem is written. I tried to give a pen picture of this Holocaust and the problems of the refugees in East Bengal, and it was then East Pakistan. Okay. Now I'm going to read Spring Was Lost. Those buried skeletons and skulls. Those buried skeletons and skulls. Waving and waving the tales of virgin lands. Waving and waving the tales of virgin lands. Lying in deep dark, still questioning the earth. Lying in deep dark, still questioning the earth. Why they were chopped off and buried in their land of birth. Why they were chopped off and buried in their land of birth. Hovering over forever in the labyrinth of life and death. Only thinking what befell them suddenly in such unpleasant hellscape. Walking to and fro through the bloody pages of the past. Tears rain down, sing the stories of violence and lost. Lands buried, paths buried, and buried all the rivers and ghats. Lands buried, paths buried, and buried all the rivers and ghats. Ghats is a Bengali word. Since the stormy winds ravaging all the hearts. No more the downy Padma, no more the downy Padma can sing the spring songs. After the bloody stream, she forgot before long. After the bloody stream, she forgot before long. Another poem from the same book. I'm going to read, entitled Dreamland. Dreamland, yesterday I wrote it. And Dreamland also is on the same theme of loss of land, being refugees. What a problem to those refugees, I think. Those people can understand, our forefathers could understand. Dreamland. We walked hand in hand. Of course, one point to be noted, during the liberation of Bangladesh, now Bangladesh, and people of Bangladesh, namely Bengali people, together fought against Pakistani soldiers. But the minorities of Bangladesh had to suffer a lot. They had to leave their land even after the liberation of Bangladesh, because being minority. And another problem is that for being different in religious faith. So the dreamland, we worked hand in hand to make our dreamland a land of human. We worked hand in hand to make our dreamland a land of human. By the working days, we were still unaware what was late. By the working days, we were still unaware what was late. For a land we all paid. Yeah, we all paid. Once slaves we were for decades and years. Once slaves we were for decades and years in the bubbles of tears. The mighty hungry camel, horse and shark dug up. The mighty hungry camel, horse and shark dug up even the burials of my ancestors. Dug up even the burials of my ancestors. Perhaps we forgot the drops of bloodshed. With hope of being neighbors and mates, we felt it was the right step to wipe out all the doubts from the graves. But what we made? We made the same fate like the Jews of the West. We made the same fate like the Jewish of the West. The Western islands gradually dissolved in the Western end. The Western island gradually dissolved in the Western end. I'm saying about the British Raj. Deserts, camels, horses, and swords, but woke up again. Deserts, camels, horses, and swords, but woke up again with a basket full of fear and pain. Though we walked for a while, hand in hand for a land. Padma, Meghna, Dhaleshwari, Buriganga, and Ichamoti began weeping. These are the rivers. Padma, Meghna, Dhaleshwari, Buriganga, and Ichamoti began weeping, saying, Siraj Digha, Bhairav Ghat, Bhairav Khali, Archa, and Jaigir Ghats while bleeding. While bleeding Kukutia, while bleeding Kukutia, while bleeding Sholghar, while bleeding Srinagar, while bleeding Munshibari. The blood streams slowly made the painful estuary. Actually, Kukutia, Sholghar, Srinagar, and Munshibari are the names of the villages in Bangladesh. And Padma, Meghna, Dhaleshwari, Buriganga, Ichamoti are the rivers of Bangladesh. In this river, just said in 1946, people were chopped off, killed and butchered, and they were thrown in the streams. The water looked red because of blood. So on this theme, I'm writing this book, Genocide. One poem I'm reading on freedom of speech, published in an international journal entitled Cultural Liberty. The name of the poem is Chain. I see the flying birds flying. I see the flying birds flying. I see the stars twinkling afar, never die. I see the stars twinkling afar, never die. I see the waves of the sea waving, waving, and waving. I see the winds blowing at ease over the grass and trees. I see the winds blowing at ease over the grass and trees. I see the light sprouting from the deep, darkened seeds. I see the light sprouting from the deep, darkened seeds. I see the streams flowing to the estuary of the seas. I see the streams flowing to the estuary of the seas. I see the dark night slowly beautifying the fireflies. I see the dark night slowly beautifying the fireflies. I see the dawn being beautified by the drops of the night for years and years alive. But I see the sounds, shakes shy of the hearts, being suffocated for years and years at all earthly parts. Since the marching roaring for justice and rights, I see the fierce, fearless, forcible knife. I see the fierce, fearless, forcible knife, awakening all day and night, only to enchain the leaves of truth, justice, and light. Only to enchain the leaves of truth, justice, and light. I see the great hearts being punished and torn like Prometheus on this earth. I see the great hearts. I see the prophets of the wars being banished and torn like caged birds, like Taslima Nasrin, Nelson Mandela, Rashdi of this sad earth. Like Taslima Nasrin, Nelson Mandela, Salman Rushdie of this sad earth. I saw those divine noble hearts still being crucified like Jesus Christ. I see those divine noble hearts still being crucified like Jesus Christ. I see those revolting forces of justice and truth being forcefully thrown at, drowned at birth, like Shelley, hog of this pitiful earth. I see those great hearts like Freud and Lawrence. I see those great hearts like Freud and Lawrence being confined in jails, inking the tales of human beings, so far unveiled, though all revolutionaries for many decades, guillotined and chained and jailed, for all revolutionaries for many decades, guillotined and chained and jailed, while liberty, equality, and fraternity hailed in a land that was so far jailed, in a land that was so far jailed, in a land that was so far jailed. This is a poem on liberty of speech. This is my third poem. I think Do I have time? Perhaps I can read a poem from this book.
Ratan
Thank you
ji,
so
I
much.
think to kind of wrap up. So thank you.
Thank you so much.
Yes, and wonderful
Thank
poems.
you.
Thank
Thank
you,
you. Thank you.
guys,
Thank
for
you. Thank you.
the
Thank you
partnership.
for inviting me to this prestigious platform. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you again, George. Three
Beautiful.
of us have
Thank you so much for bringing a diversity of voices from India to us today. I know the cultures and the voices of India are myriad, so it was a great selection you made for us today. Thank you so much. One more time for our friends from India to join us today. There you go. That's nice. Good. Now, I'll just give a quick shout out to Chuck Joy and to Jeff Wright, both of whom are going to be hosting groups in future over the course of the next several months for this. They're here with us today. So it's nice to see the people that are, that are going to be participating in out months are also with us, visiting and checking out what's going on. Thank you for coming. I'm very, very pleased to be able to introduce the third group today, Kevin Patrick Sullivan's group from San Luis Obispo, which we spelled incorrectly several times. I think, we've spelled Luis with an L-O-U-I-S, but it's, of course, L-U-I-S and Luis Obispo, Central Coast, California, a little bit north of LA, but well south of Big Sur. I think it's before you get into the Big Sur area. It's gorgeous country. We're talking about the bears coming down to raid the dumpsters of New Jersey. But I remember sitting in a hot tub up in Napomo one night and listening to the coyotes roaming around in the vineyards in the valley below us, and hearing them make a kill and shouting out to their children to come and join in the kill. It's really wild and beautiful coast of California, just as anybody from the East Coast would readily romantically imagine. So we have Kevin and his friends with us today. Kevin is a dear friend, and I visited him several times. I've read for him at Linnaeus and maybe another location in San Luis Obispo. He is and has been designated a cultural asset of San Luis Obispo, and was a former poet laureate of that town, as is Dian Sousa, former poet laureate of the town, who is with us here today. And just an all-around great guy and super poet. Please welcome Kevin Patrick Sullivan.
Am I unmuted?
You're good. You're good to go.
All right. Okay. Well, like George was saying, we've been doing poetry on our beautiful Central Coast for many, many years. And actually, we're going to have our 40th annual San Luis Obispo Poetry Festival this April. And this was a book, Corners of the Mouth, and this is a visual poem itself. Done by the co-founder, Carl Kempton. This book was a celebration of 30 years at the annual poetry festival. There's 149 poets in here from America, about a third from local, anyway, a third from California, and a third from around the country, So, like I said, we're going to have our 40th this April. We missed the last three, of course, because of COVID stuff. So I have a few poems to read myself. I got a wonderful group of poets here. I got Dian Sousa, an activist. Poet laureate, Benjamin Daniel Lawless, a friend of the people and poets, and Kevin Clark, our current San Luis Obispo poet laureate. So here's a few poems from me. This is called Prayers of the Hour, Mantis 2 a.m. Stepping across the stones of night, the stars are almost countable. Time is all I have, these few minutes to thank you for my breath This terrier my body claims, this chance to sing, to make one constant sound, one joyous song of praise. The altar for my wife, Patty. I'm all over the map. The depression of living with cancer is knocking me down. Sleepless night after restless dawn. Still, I want to sing your beauty, splash with joy, breath by breath, grab my life, hold on to my beauty, softly snoring in the bedroom. Beat this drum, this song, this poem, sleep with you through the night, continue to build this temple, this art life with you. Years ago, when I first moved out here from Detroit, Michigan, I lived on a 5-acre oceanfront right off, Shell Beach Road, right off Highway 1. And I was I had the freeway 101 at my back and the ocean right there below me. I have slowed my life down to the music of breathing. My heart, its 4 chambers pumping joy, gratitude, truth, and beauty. 6 major directions flowing through this body of water and bone. I laid in a field with tall grass at dusk. They seed heads, my mind, my body, forgetting their shape. I was an ember in the sky of light, the Milky Way, claiming its own.
Beautiful.
And this is called Touched. I read a poem today that made me think how I came to poetry. The starry lit Milky Way. I always thought it was just because I had a gift with language. The waves flapping again and again. Now I'm not so sure. Maybe poetry came into my life after I went through that windshield of a 1966 Pontiac Bonneville in 1976, the wind whispering, driving home after working all day and washing dishes, then drinking all night, celebrating the Cook's 40th in Pismo Beach. Almost got home when I drove through that telephone pole, the 101 at my back, just flying through letters. After Spyglass Drive towards the blue Pacific, laid in a field where the Cliffs Hotel is today, until the PG&E crews found me at daybreak because I had knocked out power 2 in the thick of the night, points north all the way to Avila. I laid in Sierra Vista for days, in and out of consciousness space. I had cracked my skull, not touched anywhere else. After the hospital stay, the occasional blackouts during the next year on Dilatin to prevent seizures, I started to pull words, my mind and ears listening, my heart opened. I did start to pay attention. Anyway, and I'm going to introduce Benjamin Lawless. Where you are, Ben, and like I said, he's a poetry lover and a friend of the people and poets.
Thank you very much, Sir Kevin. Can you all hear me great? Excellent. All right. Well, let's get started. 70 and a 25. The car flipped. We exchanged ground for sky, and in that second, you and I found the truth more solid than ever before. My right hand gripped yours, the left white-knuckled the steering wheel, and the autumn sun tiptoed through the windshield like a disco ball slow dance on fire. Baby, the truth is, sometimes we're a 40-car pileup, and nothing will ever fix that. I promise that after Kevin's last poem about the car crash and this one, no more car crash poems from me today. This is called Line Printer 0 is on fire. My MacBook tells me it's an error, but there's no mistake. This is revolution. Line Printer 0 is on fire, says the MacBook, and I press OK. But really, I want to press the button that says, yes, this was planned. The manufacturers required I use goat's blood instead of printer toner, and the lines printed are perfect. The letters are smooth, legible, hot. They're not the words I wrote. They're better. Line Printer 0 is on fire, lights up the curtains, the gas station down the road, Diablo nuclear power. Did I accidentally become muted? All right. Line Printer 0 is on fire, lights up the curtains, the gas station down the road, Diablo nuclear power plant. The whole damn world is ablaze. Earth's crust warms, cracks, boils away. Only a printed sheet of paper is left in a decaying orbit around the sun, which will also later explode. Thank you. Seep. I would give up summer for the rest of my life to be the cold wind you complain about tonight. I would brush your earlobe with a whisper, sneak under your scarf. I'd pepper your neck with goosebumps and seep into your mittens. Breathe me in and out. I'd chap your lips just so you'd lick them. I'd carry your shiver into the trees. Your breath would make the stars give up the night. Thank you. And this is the last poem I have for you today. It's called Ides of March. So Julius Caesar was speeding down I-15 on the way to Vegas, and he's texting his girl, and he's all like, Cleopatra, baby, hit me back, girl. Send. He's dancing between lanes, dodging cars and couches at drop-off pickups when his cell beeps. Cleo, I can't believe you forgot about tomorrow. Jules, baby, I'm getting you a great birthday present. Don't worry. Cleo, it's not my birthday, silly. Hey, I'm not texting you back till you remember what March 15th is. Jules, Cleopatra, don't do this to me. I love you, baby. Hello? Just about this time, Julius Caesar has got this all-consuming need for a rest stop, one too many Red Bulls. So he pulls over to a gas station, does his business, and on his way back to his Chrysler 300, he sees his good friend Sam Clemens next to a car filling it up. Jules, Sam says, I am so glad to see you. My car broke down. I managed to pull in here, and I've been pretending to pump gas for the last 3 hours, trying to figure out what the hell I'm gonna do. Julius laughed. Twain was always doing this kind of stupid crap. I'm headed to Vegas, man. You want to ride? Hell yes, said Sam. I thought you'd never ask. They get on the road, but Julius can't stop checking his phone. What's going on? Asks Sam. Cleopatra's busting my balls, man. Says I'm supposed to know what tomorrow is. Your anniversary? Asks Sam, laughing. You better wise up, son. March 15th will be the death of you. Thank you very much. I'm so excited to be here and so thankful to be here. Next up, we've got Dian Sousa, poet, activist, and San Luis Obispo County Poet Laureate Emeritus. Take it away. Thank you.
You got on mute. Unmute.
How about now? Can you hear me? I'm so delighted to be here on this bridge with all of you. Thank you for asking me, Kevin, and thank you for putting it together, George, and for everyone who got up early or stayed up late or, skipped their lunch to be here. I'm just going to read one long poem. Like Ben, I'm going to bring in a historical figure. For some reason, even though I live on the coast of California, I have had many dreams about the poet John Donne. So this is a poem about, it's called Gaia. It's called Gaia Riot featuring John Donne. Dream risen, he arrived that first night, transubstantial, midway between ardor and Anglican. Even so, I swooned, and in my swooning, I did wake. I woke. I sang as I am wont, to Calliope, to Polyhymnia. I went to the market. The checker asked, "How are you today?" I answered, "Light hath no tongue." But it does. "Do you need a bag?" she asked. Night 2. His hair was longer, softer. I could see the Anglican worn thin as a patched blazer. Beneath lie only ardor. I drew close. Something bit me. In the morning, an itch emanated toward every inch of my soul. I scratched till I went insane and could no longer distinguish moonrise from full day. I could not understand what was night and what was not. And so I felt seductive, sly, lacy even, ample, wholly on the inside, full-lipped, come hither on the out. Day or night 3, our blood mingled. It felt good. I let my fingertips linger on wrists. At work, I blew kisses. I wrote sonnets on the walls of my cubicle, and the walls quivered, writhed, went liquid. I praised aloud the lunchroom coffee and its alchemical perfume. I got fired. In the unemployment office, I stood on a chair, red as the sun's corona. My body burned, and I preached without pause its divinity, and I sang without pause its hunger, its rhythm, its purr. I was carted to a psychiatrist. He said, "Woman, you're lucky to be crazy in this century." And he made the sign of the noose, the sign of the beheaded, the sign of the bound and gagged, the sign of the torch, the sign of the drowned. I asked, "What about John Donne?" The doctor tested my blood. No proof of metaphysical encroachment. He prescribed Xanax. He said, "Take 2 every time a 3-personed God batters your heart." I took 3 and put a pill in every mouth of the Trinity. They relaxed. They laughed. Their laughter blew the sharp roof from their triangular prison. They disappeared in a rubied plume. They disappeared, and their disappearance hushed the pulpits. Their disappearance shushed the shotgun ambush of guilt. They disappeared, and light opened her multitude of luscious mouths and sighed. She clicked her starry tongue, and an old song rose from boulder and grass, from mud pie and magpie. I heard Calliope, Polyhymnia. I heard them rise and branch. She the owl, and she the chestnut. I heard their humming, their hymn of praise. She the river, and she the baptism of the river. She the drum, and she the dulcimer. She the ocean, and she the undulation. She the dance, she the moan, she the eye, naked, thick of foot, flesh divine. She the I the osprey, I the Appaloosa, I the periwinkle, I the rattler, I the rattle, shake and boom. I the heartbeat, I who bury and I who blossom. I that be, I that become. Tree, dirt, tooth, blood, scale, bark, fur, star, wave, fruit, grass, bone. Listen, man, I the law, and I the riot. I mother, 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 mother. I the lips, full and rounded. I the hips, full and rounded. I the lips, full and rounded, singing for it all. Thank you. I forgot to tell you that I kind of have a thing for John Donne, and when I dream about him, he's always super handsome. Or he looks like Stephen King, it's hard to say. Anyway, thank you. I'm proud and happy to introduce Kevin Clark. His third volume of poems, The Consecration, is newly published from Stephen F. Austin University Press. His second book, Self-Portrait with Expletives, which I love, won the Pleiades Press Prize. Clark's poetry appears in the Southern Antioch, Georgia and Iowa Reviews, as well as Crazy Horse, Plowshares, Prairie Schooner, Hotel America, Poetry Northwest, and many others. He also loves baseball and is just a really nice man. Hit it, Kevin.
Thank you, Diane. Thank you. Great reading. Yeah, I felt like I was taken off above the local mountains here, Diane. So everybody can hear me, I gather. I want to say thanks to George, Anton, Pankhuri, and of course, Kevin and all the other readers here. I'm only going to read two poems. Both are from the book that Diane mentioned, The Consecrations. By the way, the artwork on the cover is not mine. It's beautiful. It comes from Elaine Spatz Rabinowitz, who is a spectacular painter in the Boston area. The first poem is called Admitting Belief. And, you know, in our public lives, in our private lives, things can get pretty uptight. Obviously, here in the US, things have been pretty uptight. So how do we just try to get to normalcy? I'm not sure, but this is a poem about that effort. It's called Admitting Belief. We were sun-wrecked and itching to go back from lunch into the green lake water when the lifeguards screeched their whistles over and over, and we looked up to see them waving everyone out. Calm, fatalistic, Protestant, you bear with me when I tell this story every few years. Nod, shake your head, tell me, go on. My mother demanded we come to her, and so we sat, watched the pool turn lifeless while a big woman screamed and pointed there, and again there, at ripples under the high dive until it became clear her kid was missing. 5 decades later, I fear it's true. Someone's always missing. This time, I don't describe for you each scenario I've dreamed and told too often. One may be right there around the corner, or maybe hiding, counting seconds in his room, the shades down, the lights off, the clock and phone cords pulled from their sockets. Or another may have taken off in the pitch inhalation of 2 a.m., so no one will sense her empty bed. Or she may be missing in the altogether breathless way that surges like adrenaline, the cop on duty, not picking up the phone that hasn't yet rung, can't ring, because the fathers or wives or roommates can't bring themselves to dial, can't enter the phase in which to call is to admit belief. Some nights my trouble is I can't escape the incoming silence of alarms that tells me I should believe in something other than the pulse knifing my temple. After my mother huddled us onto the blanket in the branching shadows, I kept waiting for her to say, it's time to pack, head home, we have to go now. But she sat, wrapped, peering at the ripples for minute after howling minute. The year before, while we ate after-school snacks, she'd hung up the phone too slowly, her face literally gnarled with grief and rage. When she dragged us into the living room, then made us kneel at the coffee table, the rosary vibrating in her bloodless hands. You say, for some, prayer's a comfort, a means. Soon enough, 3 lifeguards with thick rope hoisted the body, its awful white, up the wall, where they performed the useless rituals of respiration. Why did she need to watch? You take my hand, tell me my mother was a driven woman, so righteous, even God would think twice before talking back to her. Tonight, she too is among the missing. I can't shake her last skeletal image when the screen in the cancer ward flatlined. Bodies float to the surface. I squeeze your hand, hold to existence. Outside, closing in, the dark, the wind, the ceaseless, invisible gatherings. Thank you. Thanks. So that was Admitting Belief. I'm going to end on a somewhat happier poem. It's more of a kind of philosophical love poem. It's called In Between. And when I was much younger, I used to worry that the only thing that existed was matter itself, and everything else was kind of made up. And then I started to realize just how amazing, diverse, and deeply mysterious the universe is. And so this is a poem called In Between. It's about that. I'd always told myself the late night moonlight glow riding her skin as she slept was a matter of pure matter, simple science, the way the world builds itself. I believed her low blaze to be atomic deceit, particles arranged to dupe me back into an abiding realm where the question is written as a rhetorical answer, a shimmering borealis claiming true north. But then she'd lift from the bottom layer of a dream to pull my face toward her, squinting at some nether version of the fool she knew she'd married for love. And I'd try to sleep. One midnight, the farmhouse we rented, dead center of the almond orchard, shook in moonless wind as if to dare me into the dark. And it did. I left our bed, stepping soundlessly onto the peeling porch, then upon the patch of night black grass, and stood as still as the wind would allow. I could hear in the infinite webs of almond limbs a high voice I knew was no voice, but rather a siren risen from ancient ganglia, the sound of a whistling taunt, a tinnitus betraying my belief in only the tactile. And even if it were nothing more than high-pitched worry sending me back to her side all aching night, I held out my hand, tried to gauge the untouchable hovering from her. Thank you. Thanks. Thanks, everybody.
That was Kevin Clark, the current poet laureate of San Luis Obispo, SLO. Everybody, throw your hands up together for up in the air for everybody that read for us today. Our 3 poet laureates from San Luis Obispo, led by Kevin Patrick Sullivan. Pankhuri Sinha's friends in India. Anton Yakovlev's friends in Rutherford, New Jersey. Thank you all for fabulous reading today. Everybody, consummate professional. Look at the time. We did 1 hour and 40 minutes. How good is that? Thank you all for your time discipline as well as the excellence of your writing. Once again, I will say that it's because of the Walt Whitman Birthplace that we're able to do this, with a facility that we're able to do it. Very professional job that they're doing, and extending their reach beyond the other things that they do to bring poetry to the world and bring the world of poetry to each other. So thank you again to the Walt Whitman Birthplace. Second Saturday of every month now through June. You will be able to see next month in December and January. You'll be able to see John Roche and his friends in New Mexico. You'll be able to see Claudia Soria, also from the Rutherford group, but she's going to be representing the Romanian diaspora. And Lenny Della Rocca, originally a guy from Massapequa, Long Island, but he's been in South Florida for many, many years as a prime mover and shaker in South Florida. So once again, we're going to triangulate the world of poetry and bring it together so that we can share and learn from each other and hopefully network out in various ways. So on behalf of the Walt Whitman Birthplace, Robert Savino, our Uber host today, thank you all for joining us. And we'll see you again, I hope, next month, right here on Zoom, as we triangulate the world of people and poets building bridges. Thank you very much.